The other day I was working with a client. We were looking at some performance data for one of their locations, and it always surprises me how many people there are who are just killing it. And those that do get recognized tend to get recognized in an annual performance review, where it's too late because all they get is a pat on the back and maybe a bonus. What about the people who just show up every single day? Put in the work, do the work well, and hit the targets. What about them? So here's what I want to talk about today. And by the way, if you're a high performer who's been ignored for too long, stick around to the end, because I am going to share with you what you can do when you feel like you're being ignored. Reason: no. 1. Why you should stop ignoring your high performers. It reduces engagement. Think about this for a moment. You have somebody who's talented and skilled and they're doing great work. And day in, day out, they come to work and they hit the targets and they get ignored. How do you think that makes them feel? Do you think it makes them feel valued? Do you think it makes them feel engaged? We know that we all want to be recognized. We all want to be seen. We all want to be appreciated. So if you've got someone who's a high performer and they're not being recognized, they're probably going to feel disengaged. They may start to wonder, why am I even here? Why am I doing this? My skills and talents are probably better used somewhere else. So if you ignore your high performers, it tends to reduce their engagement. Now, reduced engagement means they're not going to be as productive. So recognizing your high performers is really important. Reason: no. 2. It destroys morale. Now, this kind of goes along with what we just talked about. If you have people who are working hard and doing great things and you recognize those people, the rest of the team tends to feel pretty good about themselves. After all, they're seeing their peers be recognized. But if you have people who are underperformers and you recognize them, or you recognize no one, then it just sets a bad example. It crushes morale. People feel demoralized and they start to feel disengaged. Again, none of that is good. And by the way, if you're a high performer who's been ignored for too long, take this as permission to start raising your hand and putting yourself out there. Ask for recognition. Recognize the accomplishments of others. Celebrate successes. That will help lift everybody up. Reason: no. 3. It kills retention. Nobody wants to work in an environment where the best people leave, yet so many companies kill retention by ignoring their high performers. Think about it. High performers are usually very talented, and if you ignore them, they're going to leave. We want to keep our high performers around because they make the company successful, but it's equally important to recognize and reward the people who are out there crushing it. If you ignore them, they'll leave. And then what happens? You're left wondering why the company isn't successful. Well, it's probably because you ignored your high performers, and they left. The last thing I want to say is, yes, we should recognize the achievements of others, but don't forget to recognize your own. If you're a high performer who's been ignored for too long, please hear me. This isn't about complaining. This isn't about whining. This is about taking control of your career. I'm gonna go out there, and I'm gonna get it. I know I'm talented. I know I'm skilled. I know I bring a lot of value. So it's time to get out there and make sure you're being recognized. Make it happen. If you're wondering how you can make it happen, here are some tips for you. No. 1. Document your accomplishments. Keep track of the wins, both big and small. Share them with your boss. Put them in your performance reviews. Tip no. 2. Get others to recognize you. So you want to recognize the accomplishments of others. At the same time, ask others to recognize you. If you have a peer who's in a position to recognize you, ask them to recognize you. If you have customers or clients, reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'd love to hear some feedback. Hey, I'd love to hear some testimonials." Sometimes people don't realize how much they should recognize you. So it's up to you to remind them, hey, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to recognize you unless you recognize yourself. Nobody else is going to do it. And if you don't brag about yourself, then you're selling yourself short. So recognize yourself, recognize others, and make sure you're all working together to build a positive, thriving culture. I hope this helps. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.